Okay. So basically that's that. Okay. So let's go to the conversation of this week. Let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I was just about to be worried. Um, that's I was going to open it in Mozilla. Okay, if you look at our training plan, today we're supposed to be looking at Defender for a cloud. And I'm basically going to go back to Defender for cloud quickly. If this is your whole content, and you can see this is Microsoft Defender for cloud. And if you are doing reading yourself, Microsoft is not expecting you to spend more than 4 or 70 minutes learning about the modules. And you have 6 modules. One is on plan for workload protection using Microsoft Defender for cloud. You have connect Azure assets to Microsoft Defender for cloud. You see connect non-Azure resources to Microsoft Defender for cloud. Manage your security posture management with Defender for cloud. Explain cloud workload protections in Microsoft Defender for cloud and remediate security alerts using Microsoft Defender for cloud. Now, the first question is, what is Microsoft Defender for cloud? And basically, if you look at plan for cloud workload protection using Microsoft Defender for cloud, you probably have an understanding or maybe a clue as to what Microsoft Defender for cloud is. Basically, you see a lot of organizations having services. A lot of us are from Nigeria, and I'm sure you'll be familiar with Uber. You'll be familiar with maybe both. You'll be familiar with payment infrastructure like OPay, like QuickTeller, and all of those things. Those applications and services that you see, they are hosted on a machine somewhere, on a computer somewhere, and those computers need to be protected. So a lot of the time, I think 30% of the global workload, if you remember from the introduction presentation, is currently controlled by Microsoft, and that's I think 25% or something. And that's trailing AWS, which is controlling 30, 30, 30 something percent of the cloud market. And even for organizations that are running their workload in on-premise infrastructure, I mean, using traditional servers in their offices, those ones can also benefit from Microsoft Defender for cloud. And from introduction, you can see that Microsoft Defender for cloud provide Azure and hybrid cloud workload protection and security posture management. A lot of time, I would have loved to share something with you, but I don't know how I can responsibly share. I would have loved to show you one of the what's it called? One of the one of the security posture that I'm working on for an organization who is currently trying to go live, but I can't do that responsibly on this call. So I'll not be able to do it. But I can show you something. Maybe I'll look for how to anonymize the images and share maybe on Saturday. So when you have those services on the internet, and those services are vulnerable, if they have some weaknesses in how they've been secured, or probably have some vulnerabilities in the technology used to build them, an attacker on the internet can take advantage of them. So what Microsoft Defender for Cloud does is actually to protect your workload through an automated alert and security posture management. What do I mean by security posture management? When the Defender for Cloud continuously monitor your services and resources that you have in the cloud and on-premise, or even not necessarily within Azure, within AWS or GCP. And Microsoft Defender, if you find any configuration issues that may expose your organization, will generate an alert and also can give you some recommendation on how to best secure the workload. You recall that we said that the work of a security operation center analyst is not just to detect when there is an ongoing incident, is to actually proactively look for areas where there are issues and to remediate them before they can be exploited. Now, how does Cloud Defender for Cloud work? The Defender for Cloud features cover two broad pillars of security, which I have mentioned. The first one is the security posture management, so which gives you visibility into your current security situation if you have maybe any configuration error or vulnerability in your software stack. It also gives you hardware guidance where you have done it. Doesn't just provide visibility, it gives you a step-by-step approach on how to make configuration changes to ensure that you protect your organization. So, in addition to security posture management, you also have what they called the cloud workload protection. So, which offers security alerts that are powered by Microsoft Threat Intelligence. So, basically, what this one does is through Microsoft Defender and security features, it alerts you when you have configuration issues that may expose your organization. And in terms of resources that Microsoft Defender can secure, you see Defender for server, you see Defender for app service, storage, databases, container, key vault, resource manager, and DNS. And also, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are common services that organization will want to do. If you have an application on the internet, you are probably using one of the app services. Some people will prefer to just have a dedicated server where they install everything and run it into the cloud. Some people will have databases, which can be SQL, MySQL. You can have a MongoDB or whatever DB your organization is using. Container is one way of doing microservice recently. So for organizations that are using microservice, they'll be using container. In security, we said it's not good to put security into configuration files. Basically, password and secrets into configuration file, because if the application is breached, anyone that can reach the configuration file can reach the password. So you want to store your private key, your application secrets into key vaults, and also resource manager, which is more like a control plane where you actually manage different resources that you have in the cloud. And also for a lot of man in the middle attack, you always have an attack on DNS in play. So all of these critical infrastructures are covered and can be protected by Defender for Cloud. But in addition to those, you can also have some other services protected. And if you look at hybrid protection, you see a lot of the question is, it is Microsoft. Do you think it's going to be able to protect other services not managed by Microsoft? Because a lot of organizations will always love to harmonize their tool as much as possible just to reduce the management overhead. The answer to that is yes. You can also use Defender for Cloud to protect your non-Azure servers and also to protect virtual machines in other clouds such as AWS and GCP. So I've already spoken about Defender for Cloud Security Alert, and I'm not going to say that again. I've already talked about the vulnerability assessment and management, and also I'm going to talk about the Cloud Advanced Protection. And you see what a Microsoft Defender does is actually to use advanced analytics for those critical servers, and it check them a bit against best practices, and where issues are found, then what's it called, quickly alert you to those issues. I think one of the things is, for instance, you know that where they will tell you that management ports should not be open to the internet. A lot of organizations with weak security will start going to the cloud, and you see them opening port 3389 to the internet, or possibly open SSH to the internet. And the implication of those is basically that when someone, an attacker, I mean, they just open a what's it called? They just open a loophole for the attacker to actually exploit their security fabric. So to say, it is not a good thing, and basically you want to protect your organization as much as possible. So yeah, you want to protect your organization as much as possible. And sorry, just a moment. I'm switching screen. Yep. Yeah, so I already talked about security analysis. This one talks about the concept of defender for workload. A lot of times when people are implementing security, they think about the now, onboarding the previous servers that they own, hardening the security, but they don't factor in what happened to systems that they will be onboarding later after the project has been completed. So Microsoft Defender has a concept called continuous access, meaning that it's not just a one-time exercise. It will access the systems that you've brought on board, and also as you add more system to it, also it will also continuously assess the weaknesses on those systems, and also alert you or provide recommendation depending on your license type. Secure all adding all connected resources and services. There are times also where you can automate admin, but a lot of time, because it may also be service impacting, yeah, you may want to uh, allow your security team to review before implementing it. So it will still provide guidance in those instances. And basically, it can detect and resolve threats to those resources and services. This is what I meant now by saying it, that it can actually just go ahead and do that. So how does Defender help you achieve, protect yourself against these challenges? One is by secure score. It gives you at a glance a benchmark, basically that shows you how well your security postures are, and then quickly able to um, show you how well you are doing security, and also quickly able to tell you where your weaknesses are, and then provide recommendations and provide recommendations. So basically, I will try to reshare my screen to show you something while I try to filter out some of the information that I don't want you to see. I'm sharing the whole screen. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
You can see my full screen now, right? Now, if you look at this organization, for instance, you see that they have 3 subscriptions, and you see that they have 16 access resources. The attack paths and security alerts are not currently in play because I've not subscribed to those services. But you can see also Microsoft security benchmark, which help you to see which control is passed. And basically, Microsoft has 63 controls for the services that are being used in this environment. And you can see that 41% of those control is passed. You can see here how to do connection, and you can see that I have 2 Azure services partially onboarded. I have AWS not onboarded. I have cloud GCP not onboarded, and these are the 3 most popular what's it called, cloud infrastructure, and you can also add other environments as well, maybe like your DevSecOps process. You can see the Azure DevOps, you can see the GitHub, you can see the Git, and you can see plus, meaning that you can add other ones. And if you look at the recommendation, basically these are some of the services that I have in this what's it called, in this environment, and you can see already that it's already put in some information there. I won't be able to see anything in attack path analysis, basically because I don't have any subscription. I mean, I have not onboarded any resources to be able to use a CPM. You can see security alerts that I need to work on. You see, I can use try Azure Defender for free. That's Defender for cloud, basically. And one thing, what you don't know, you cannot secure. Basically, this one also gives you an a list of the inventory of what you have and how to manage them. And then Cloud Security Explorer. So this one gives you more like a template to quickly look at maybe high risk area and to quickly create a policy that can help you query for those exposure and then manage them. You see, for vulnerable VMs to a specific vulnerability, you see Internet Expose SQL Server with managed identity. You see VM and MD agent health issues. You see AI workload and model. So you have basically a lot of templates to get you started if you need to. If you have maybe some issues, or maybe when and what's it called? One of the things we've said about Defender is the fact that you can also automate a response. If something happen, what do you want to do? You may want to initiate an action. So basically, Microsoft also has some workbook that you can use to create an action and then reuse. Basically, you have some templates like dashboard. You have things like permission management for keying. You have things like API security dashboard, and you can create something also from start if you want to. For security, you can see your security posture. For your compliance to for your compliance to regulatory compliance, you can see all of this basically. And data and AI, you can always work around this. And also environmental settings, you can do this where you actually do manual onboarding or maybe automated onboarding of resources and across what's it called, across the different cloud. And you can see you have Azure subscription, you have JFrog, AWS account, GCP, GitHub, Azure DevOps, GitLab, Docker Hub, basically. So you can do that and you see the root, what's it called? You have security solution if you want to implement more like Azure WAF, that is web application filtering. For us, for the people that are familiar with OWASP, you know how OWASP operate, basically telling you about vulnerabilities that are often exploited. And basically, you can configure a WAF, for instance, an Azure application gateway, to actually manage those vulnerabilities and to easily secure also the information or the solution that you are putting in the cloud. And you have workflow automation as well, where you can actually automate a response, maybe through things like what's it called? When you have a security alert, a recommendation, or a compliance status being in breached, you can actually select the severity level and you can create a logic app basically to actually automate your response, basically. And that's how to manage that. So I'm going to go ahead back to um yeah, I'm going to go back to sharing the tab. I hope that provides some insights. Okay, so in terms of architecture, Defender for Cloud is native part of Azure, platform as a service, um, and includes service fabric, SQL, manage instance and store accounts, blah blah blah, all of those. And it's also, in addition to protecting Azure resources, can protect non-Azure resources and virtual machine in the cloud. So for Windows, Linux, when you have an Azure hack in place, you can use an Azure App to manage your non Azure services, Azure infrastructure, like a on-premise or server that is hosted in your on-premise in your local office, or maybe another service that you are running in maybe AWS or GCP, for instance. You can use Azure App to bring them into Azure for you to be able to manage them. And you see that if you're going to do that, you must have an Azure Monitor agent extension installed in those services. For instance, the VMs, if you need to be able to measure that. In terms of strengthening your security posture, we've talked about how that is done. We've talked about continuous assessment. And one of the other things that Azure Defender can do, Defender for Cloud can do for you is to give you a network map. It can also map, I think this is what we used to call a App Insight. I think there was a solution called App Insight that we used in my previous work. Basically, when you have services that are talking to services or systems that are talking to system on the network, sometimes it's always very difficult to actually pinpoint what is talking to what. So the network map, it gives you a visibility into how your applications and systems are talking. And aside the fact that it gives you a comprehensive inventory of all of your assets, it also actually shows you some critical service that you have. If you look at the topology I currently have on the screen, you see at the out of it is the keywords, meaning that all of the services run across these systems, they all rely on these keywords to retrieve secrets. So if by chance the app service, the keyword service is unavailable, maybe someone deleted it, and then all the service, if you restart them, they'll not be able to start. That's the implication. So it actually also helps you, it gives you visibility into your network resources and also map out dependency. I'll say in a way um it's also fulfilling the dream of a CMDB. And now Microsoft will want us to do some exercise. Um uh I think I yeah, in terms of which, I'm not sure if I was here. Yeah, okay. So in terms of auto provisioning, I did mention how auto provisioning can be done. And you see also that you can configure auto provisioning from under the setting pane of Azure for cloud. And basically, what do you do? If you want to do auto provisioning, you can ask it to enable log analytics agent for Azure VMs. So basically, when a new system is onboarded in Azure, it also automatically do log analytics agent installation so that those systems can be brought in. And for people who are using yeah, to be brought in, you can also see for vulnerability assessment for machine, if you want to enable it. So basically you can turn on any functionalities that you like to use to enable. But note this one: log analytics for Azure VM, vulnerability assessment for machine. You see guest configuration agent for virtual machines. You see Microsoft deployment agent for to collect and store network traffic data of onboarding VMs, and policy add-on for Kubernetes. And why will you use auto provisioning? The essence is to ensure that your team do not get oversighted, blindsided by another project. And when you have some new resources coming up, you do not onboard them, basically. And you have to, so you can read all of these details to actually see how it works. And manual log analytics agent provisioning. So in instances where you don't want to do automated provisioning, maybe because you want to be aware of cost and be able to estimate the cost implication, because what's it called, Defender for Cloud is based on the module that I install. Basically you can do manual installation by following this guy. You see, install the log analytics agent for Windows, install the log analytics agent for Linux. And in terms of, okay, so we have a module assessment here, which is actually to um uh which is a which is just to check our knowledge which is a Windows security event configuration. I think I skipped that. I did not mention it, but I think I somehow mentioned it around here. For the configuration option, is it on this page? I think it's on previous page. For the um configuration option, sorry, Windows security events option log, yeah. So for the configuration options, I think the level of security events you choose to store in choosing to store security events enable investigation, search and auditing of those events in your Defender for Cloud is required to store incur some charges basically. So I think it's one of the links, so I'll not bother you with that, so I'll allow you to read. And that is that on the first module of Defender for Cloud. You also have Connect Azure to Microsoft Defender. And like I mentioned earlier, I told you also that you can onboard not just Azure resources, you can onboard other resources. And if you want to onboard other resources, there are two ways you can do it. For on-premise resources, you need to use Azure Arc. You need to use Azure Arc to do that. And for other clouds, there are integrations settings that you can turn on, and that allow you to actually bring systems from those infrastructure into your environment as well. And like I also mentioned, one of the things that Azure do for you is actually the inventory. If you have a VM, the VM may not even have antivirus, may have its security ports open unnecessarily to the internet, may have some applications with known vulnerabilities, evidenced by CVE. And what I am Azure Defender does for you in each of your assets is actually to highlight those vulnerabilities to you for you to remediate. If you want to create auto provisioning, I think we already mentioned how that is done. And also, in addition to that, you already spoke about how manual installation is also done. Connect non-Azure resources to Defender. Like I mentioned, if you want to connect non-Azure resources to Defender, you see that protect non-Azure resources. I mentioned that you can use more like a Azure Arc to enable your entire environment with a single pane of glass by projecting your existing non-Azure or on-premise or other cloud resources into Azure Resource Manager, and also continue using traditional IT ops as well. But basically, the Azure resources can extend an interface for Azure Arc rather can extend an interface for Azure Resource Manager and can help you to bring in other services that are not Azure native into Azure, like on-premises multi-cloud and maybe edge services. Um, so add a non-Azure machine with Azure Arc. You have the process to do this. Add non-Azure machine from Azure Portal. You have the process also to do this. If you want to onboard your Azure Stack VMs, onboard Linux machines, onboard Windows machine, basically you will have all of the steps. So I'll let you read on this part so that you can get them in details, and then we don't waste much time. Like I mentioned, in addition to using Azure Arc for Google AWS accounts, sorry, for AWS accounts and Google Cloud, there are policies you can auto provisioning agent policies that you can also turn on to ensure that those resources that you are managing in AWS can be onboarded. And you see currently 4 AWS accounts has been onboarded here, and you can see the number of on LD resources that you have there. So this means that Defender for Cloud also provide vulnerability or your exposures for non-Microsoft applications and servers as well. And if you want to connect maybe a GCP, you also have instructions on how to do that. And I'll allow you to do that, which is an option to connect your non-Azure computers, Windows Store, no, using an Azure Arc enabled server, no from Excel spreadsheet. I think you have a direct integration through a policy, and you can also use Azure Arc as we discussed. Which resource can Microsoft Defender for cloud protect in hybrid environment? It can protect Word documents, it can protect SQL database, it can protect Cosmos DB, it can protect SQL database. Which cloud provider has a cloud connector in security center? We spoke about GCP and AWS. We didn't talk about IBM Cloud. We didn't talk about Oracle. So I believe we should be good. And that says we're 100%. Um, so I think that, and then we have security posture management. I think I already walked us through security posture management based on the screen that I shared with you earlier. And I think the most important thing is for us to do remediation of security alerts, basically, because it is one thing for you to actually know that there is a problem. It's another thing for you to have a recommendation or to know how to remediate it. So basically, Microsoft Defender for Cloud will just not tell you that, oh, you have a problem here. It actually gives you instruction on how to resolve it. And if you are a busy team also, you can also automate the response. Or in fact, you can even create maybe like a workbook or what's it called, a workflow that notify if the security team is different from the resource owner. You can automate it in such a way that it log a ticket on service desk for the responsible team to pick up while your team is putting copy so that you can do a follow-up, and also you've already automate yourself out of the need to actually do a manual work. And I think that just gave me an idea of one tax assignment for on Saudi. So I think I said I was going to dwell on the remediation. So to remediate security alerts, how do you do that? We've said that it's also the job of the security operations center analyst to deploy cloud workflow protection with Defender for Cloud. You are responsible for remediating issues generated by Defender for Cloud. And also, when there are issues, you want to be promptly notified, so you'll get an alert regarding maybe anything that is going wrong in your environment. And you can also create a logic app to perform actions for future alerts. If you resolve an issue and you basically want to hunt for such issues in your environment without necessarily having to redo it manually, saving time, you basically can also do that. Understand the security alert. Threat landscape is always evolving, and the threat of today may be uh, would definitely be different from the threat of last year. And the last 20 years has actually been exciting because what used to be threats in those years, a lot of people have built solutions to prevent them. And the attackers are getting wiser every day, inventing new methods basically to circumvent the security and controls. So basically, also while you are chasing the changing landscape, for what you are aware of, you just want to automate yourself around it when you get an alert. So, what are the security alerts and security incidents? I think we already covered that in Defender for XDR. And basically, why you can use the Azure portal to actually assess maybe your exposure. You also need to, if you also go to Defender portal itself, security.microsoft.com, you should be able to also see basically anything that you have wrong in terms of your devices. You can have your exposures, and also basically you can see that there are feature threat intelligence article that helps you stay abreast as well. One of the things I actually love to do is come to these OSINTs and also read the articles about open source intelligence. And basically, what happens with all of this, the open source intelligence just tells you about the security that people are getting subjected to recently. And you can see that uh, you can see that a lot of time you may need to build a protection for your organization. I think last week we were talking about APT groups, and you can see APT 29, which is using sophisticated email phishing, impersonating an European Ministry of Foreign Affairs to target European companies and diplomats. So if you are in this industry and you want to prevent yourself, you see the campaign employs a new loader, group loader, to deploy a stealthy modular backdoor called Wine Loader using an anti-analysis technique and legitimate software for side loading. So exactly if someone is going to resolve one of this issue I highlighted now, you can basically just resolve it for yourself. And if I want to create a content, basically I could actually create a content detailing how to respond to the wine tasting law by APT loader. And this can be a good article for you to write on. I mean, given the knowledge that you have now about how to prevent attack like this, you just need to find wine loader, what it is, if you can get the file hash, if you have maybe URL or IP address involved, and how you can actually use Microsoft Defender to prevent it. Supposing you are working for an organization that play in the sector targeted, you see the Tycoon 2FA PHAAS enhancement. Is a phishing as a service platform that has been updated with advanced obfuscation method using invisible Unicode. So you can always read all of these open source intelligence to actually see what is going on as well. I mean that was just a side conversation. Pardon me. Yeah, so how are alerts classified? When you have alerts, it can be classified as high, as medium, as low. That's a high means a high probability that your resource is compromised. If Microsoft find out that classify an alert for you as high, it has a confidence that the malicious high confidence in both the malicious intent and in finding used to issue the alert. Basically, it has an inkling to say that your environment is already being breached. So you need to prioritize anything that is marked as high. You have a medium, the severity indicates it is probably a suspicious activity that might indicate a resource is compromised. It does not indicate exploitation, but it indicates compromise of the system. The gap between compromise and exploitation is always a matter of minutes. So as well, before it moves to high, you quickly want to respond to it. And you can also have it as low, which can indicate it might be a burning positive or blocked attack. You have an attack, but it was promptly blocked, but it still wants to give you an indication to say that you may need to look more at your defense around there because there has been an attempt, even though it's not been successful. And you have information that we just inform you about things that are ongoing. A lot of time for security things to filter through the noise. Majority is always set to low. You want to know of everything happening, and then you want to prioritize remediation yourself. Yeah, so intelligence sharing. Basically insight from security teams across Microsoft broad portfolio of cloud and on-premise server and client devices and shared and analyzed. Microsoft shared information from different customer environments, what they've learned to enhance the security of other organizations, and also pitching. I'm not pitching for Microsoft now, but I just feel like also staying within the Microsoft conclave actually also enrich the intelligence that you have. since they actually control a large volume of systems and application compared to other vendors. Yeah, I think last time when talking about the APT group, I think I briefly mentioned the mitral attack tactics and the different stages. I think for what's it called? If you have time, you can read on what's that thing again? Q chain. You can read about Q chain. Mitral attack always tell you about the stages of attack. And in your investigation as a SOC analyst, if you know what stage an attack is, you always know how to quickly kill the attack and also eradicate the attack from your environment. So in Q chain always start from a reconnaissance, and that's pre-attack, where the attacker is just learning and gathering information about the organization that they want to breach. Basically, if I need to breach maybe Google, for instance, I can start from DNS, going through the DNS record, making notes of servers and all of those things available within the Google environment. Then the next thing is for me to actually begin scanning those IP to actually get information about what's it called? About the technology that they are using. And that's why it is a bad practice to actually allow applications that you publish to the internet to show the underlying technology. You see, for instance, I can't show you, but as part of the reports I just showed you earlier, there is okay, maybe I should not use that example. So I have one of the other attack that I work on. I mean, the company I assess their infrastructure for a while ago, and one of the issues that I find out also is the fact that they are using a vulnerable web server. They are using an Nginx server that is end of life and also with two known vulnerabilities that can be exploited on the line that can be exploited. And that organization also even now happen again to be a card accepting organization, so that may even make it worse. So basically, my recommendation for them is just to go and upgrade the version of Nginx that they are running, just to ensure that the organization is not breached. Then you have a privilege escalation. I mean, so basically, after they've done that, reconnaissance, trying to find information about the organization, about the assets they have, about the vulnerabilities on the assets. Then the next thing is actually weaponization, where they actually do initial access. They weaponize the information that they have to actually establish an initial hold or initial access in that environment. And this stage is relevant for compute and resources such as user account certificate. Threat actors will always be able to control the resources after this stage. If a threat actor successfully who plant themselves in your environment, it's always easier for them to actually make themselves invisible on the network and move laterally. That's what they call persistence. And then later they can do privilege escalation where they try to get more access than they do. For instance, in a Windows environment, when someone gain access to a network system, their idea is always to work their way to the domain controller, which houses identity of everyone. And if they can breach any of their accounts with domain admin access, they can take over the whole. They can take over the whole domain, basically. So yeah, they can do that. And then the defense evasion is the way they actually cover their track to evade detection, maybe from same solutions from catching them, or maybe other security tools from not detecting them. So basically, you have different stages. I think you can review the what is it called, the meta attack based on version 7, and also review the yeah, review the meta attack and also the uh what's it called? And also the what's it called? Queue chain, basically. And remediate alerts and automate responses. Like I mentioned, if you have an alert and you click on it, you see that you can see the full details. And after seeing the full details, you can always see take next action, which actually tells you the things to do. And under take action, you see mitigate, read more about SQL injection threats and best practices for save application code. So you have this and you can do that. You have prevent the feature attack, how to automate it just to ensure that even when you are bringing another system on board, it is secure by design. You don't have to think about implementing again. So you can do that. And you can create automate responses through a logic app and define when it should automatically run. One of the things that you can do, for people who are familiar with Power Automate, where you can automate some tasks, you can use Logic App in the same way you use Power Automate to actually do detection and to trigger response when it is needed. And how to suppress, sometimes also you may find out that it's not impossible to have a false positive. I think I did mention certain instance of maybe a sales file earlier. So if you also need to create a suppress maybe an alert because you feel like, oh, the alert is not the information or the alert is spurious, it's not authentic, you can also create what's it called, a suppression rule, which actually suppress the alert and also allow you to export it. So basically, you have threat intelligence reports as well, which you can use. A lot of the organizations, that I always say that in most organizations, you have what's it called? In most organizations, you a lot of security budgets. You I mean security teams are always seen as a big spender, and they don't get appreciated when things are working fine, but they also get crucified when things are not working fine. Now, when there is a successful attack, then how do they actually show that the investment they have invested in, the organization investment in security, is actually paying off? One way of doing that is through reporting. If you are able to capture what your tool has blocked or prevent a successful attack, I mean, an attack that that your solution and your tools has been able to catch and prevent, basically, you might be able to show the value. I think I wrote an article on LinkedIn a while back, talking about a cost center to profit center for for security team. A lot of time when organization view security and IT teams, they just see them like people spending the money, but they actually don't see the risk that they've managed for them. And if you are actually able to quantify your reports, or the conversation in terms of the risk that you've mitigated, I think the conversation will be different. A case in point, if you look at what's it called, Israel, there was a time when the Palestine just launched over 120 rockets against Israel, and the Iron Dome, and I think Abraham Sling or something. The Iron Dome was a project, a defense project by Israel, which is actually to intercept rocket launches against Israel and be able to defuse them in air, preventing them from impacting the country. And US also has their Abraham Sling or something that they position close to Israel. And if there's any attack coming in the area covered by the Abraham Sling, in the part from Iran, the Abraham Sling is also able to capture it and also intercept and kill it mid-air, preventing it from landing in Israel and causing catastrophe. Now, when Palestine launched 120, is it Palestine, Iran actually? When Iran launched over 120, only 3 landed in Israel. And the question was, we just read in the news the following day saying that, oh, Iran launched so number of attack against Israel, and you just saw in video flashes, but we are not actually counting casualties in terms of they are not counting casualties in terms of the number of casualties that they had. And what happened is because of the investment that they had that paid off. Now imagine that Abraham Sling or maybe the Iron Dome were not there. What do you think the conversation and the narrative would have been? And this is how to show your management to say that your security team budget is actually working for you, and this is what you've been able to actually capture, and not to I mean just to shift the conversation from being a cost center that you're just spending money to actually a profit center. The risk, what would have happened to the organization if that risk has mitigated? I think you might also be able to quantify that as well. And also now respond to alert from Azure. You can respond, contact me. Contact information is always required. Immediate mitigation is always very, very important. Identify impact and take action basically. And if you have DNS alert as well, there are also guidelines on how you can do that to what's it called? How you can do that. Defender for Cloud employs which advanced security analytics? You see biometric analytics, Power BI, it's behavioral analytics. Which Azure terminology is used to automate remediation? I'll see if we were following. So who wants to answer this? Which Azure technology is used to automate remediation?
It's C.
Sorry?
C, Logic Hubs.
Yeah, Azure Logic Apps. Thank you. If available, which report provides attack tactic, tools, and procedure?
Threat intelligence.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah, so basically we got that right, and that comes to the end of this module. And like I always say, you see that I was skipping through just so we have enough time to actually look at the technical aspects of this and be able to practicalize. I'll ask that you all try in your spare time to actually read and cover the whole syllabus on Defender for Cloud against Saudi. That will make the conversation easier. And also, since we'll be doing hands on Saudi, I think I'm trying to remember currently what the VM is called. There's a VM that you can set up that has Wally, I don't know if you remember. It's a box that has all of the vulnerabilities that you can think of in the world.
Metasploitable.
It's not metasploitable.
Kali.
I used it in Kali. If I start my VMs, I might be able to see it, right? I can't remember. I think I installed it using.
It should be metasploitable now, isn't it?
No,
The VM that comes with vulnerability already.
Yeah, with vulnerability. I'll remember the name and I'll put it on the
Hold
chat.
on.
Yeah.
Let me check.
What's the name of these? What's it called? Hyper-V for VMware on, I think, Flask, or what was the name? For Mac. Okay, VMware Fusion. I can't remember if I just installed the vulnerable bunch into this thing. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a detailed instruction of how to set your environment up against I'll do that tomorrow. How to set your environment up against Saturday so that you can follow me step by step. I think that is one. Then two, you need to, you see that you can onboard application in Azure, and you can also onboard from on-premise server. So to be able to set up Microsoft Defender, you need to come to, you see, portal.azure.com, right? If you come to portal.azure.com, you can sign up for a subscription. Microsoft gives you, you see, welcome to Azure subscription. I've logged on with the account I registered for this tenant, but Microsoft Azure is a platform. I'm just going to click on try Azure for free. And if I try Azure for free, it asks me for information and also for my card details again. I'm just going to click all of these and then click on next step. It's asking me for my, basically it's the way we have set up, what is it called? It's asking for card information. So I'm not going to be able to do this, but basically you can go to portal.azure.com and then click on, okay, I can put this directly on our WhatsApp. And from there, you can, I just put it on the CSMG general. And from there, you can select, I mean, you can follow that part to sign up for Microsoft subscription. I don't want to start using my card details and all while on this call, but you can just follow the step by step. If you have any issues or you are unable to do it, just chat me up, right? So once you sign up for Azure, you can create a VM, and also you set up Azure Arc, and then you can create a virtual machine on your local system. Um, if you are, you can install a virtual box, Oracle virtual box. You can install VMware Fusion for people using Mac like myself, or you can use VMware Works. What's the other one, Seth? VMware Workstation, and then you can create a VM. Just download a trial of Microsoft. What's it called? I think I'm going to go and open GitHub and probably just provide you access to those GitHub to make everything detailed. So you can create, I'll do that. I'll send it to you maybe tomorrow, later tomorrow evening. And then you can go ahead and follow the guide to actually set up your environment. And basically, after you've done that, you'll be able to get ready. So someone put my phone. Sorry. So I'll provide that details, and then that will help you to set up the environment. So allow me to send the latest this time tomorrow. And if you set everything up, will be good for Saturday on how to begin. Any question? Wally, any question? Hey, Emmanuel, go ahead.